All right, welcome to another episode from the Chart Reader. So we will be taking a quick look at SoundHound, but there's going to be a good amount of Palantir baked into this thing. Okay, so yesterday was a good day on SoundHound, very much so, right? And a lot of it really was started by this bounce on the 100 moving average that we talked about, obviously 2 weeks ago, looking at this chart, right? Two big things come to mind. The first one, like I said, very much Palantir driven. The second one really was a nice channel, right? There are so many different things that can be called a channel. One of them that I use often is in between the lines, right? So between the 8 and the next line up, there was nothing but good spacing and a nice little red, 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 red right here, right? So it actually became pretty easy to just go whoop right up to here, and you can see pretty much to the only little insignificant horizontal on this real big red, right? Um, Earnings again is on the ninth. Earnings again is on the ninth. Earnings will dictate what this does, okay? I think the biggest thing, especially for the long SoundHound investors, right? We went from sub 2 to basically living and holding this $4 multi doji moment, right? So there's a lot of really good in that alone, but there's way more new SoundHound investors, I would say. Obviously, this little moment of big buys and not that much big sell behind it kind of shows they're still holding, actually, right? So earnings is going to be a big thing here. Man, Palantir, the craziest back to back, right? Very much reminds me of SoFi. Where was it? Right here. SoFi gaps up on earnings this January 29th, and then lo and behold comes right back down. You know what I mean? It actually kind of does the same thing again over here. I think it was a straight gap down on the actual earnings day, but this was actually, like we saw with Palantir, this was the earnings gap up, and then you can see what happens afterwards, right? So very crazy one too right there, and that's obviously what we're reacting to, I think, on SoundHound today. So a little bit longer of an intro, but before we go any further and I give you more of my thoughts and opinions, what are we going to do? Same thing we always do, right? We'll take a look at the daily and the weekly to see how these things are setting up short term. We have our 5 moving averages. There are horizontal support and resistance lines that I do draw manually myself. And then when we are done up here, we'll use the MACD, RSI, and volume as our lower indicators. Hey, really quickly, if you can please subscribe to this channel, share this video online with your friends, comment good or bad if you disagree. Look, anything you can do helps so much with these YouTube algorithms, but hey, just being here, giving me your time, giving me your thoughts, oh, I am so grateful for it all right? So let's get into SoundHound, and really, I think the biggest thing is this $4 multi doji really holding well right here. Normally, I say I give way more power to the moving averages than anything up here. I really think that this crazy anomaly of 6 dojis in a row before we obviously continued upward, this just seems like a big moment, and it makes a lot of sense that it, seemingly holds and bounces us, right? Liking what the MACD and RSI have been trying to do, but really the issue continues to be volume, right? So I talked about this earlier. When we were before the hype, right, before the NVIDIA connection and all that, our volume was about 5.7 million on this day. It was 5.4 on this day. What was a big day back in the day? That one's 11. That one's 20. So hey, maybe you can say between 5 and 10 was a good normal day-ish, right? Maybe even just an average 7. From there, we find ourselves moving that 50-day average line as high as, goodness, 72 million shares, right? And we have been so far away from that 50-day line that it's been killing the stock, right? As nice as yesterday was, yesterday I think was double digit. Yeah, it's 15%, right? Almost 16%. As nice as that was, it was only a little bit of what it could have been if we actually had some great volume that destroyed that line right there, right? So Volume has really been holding this thing down. Again, I kind of just said it, right? MACD hasn't been horrible. Yeah, it's negative, but we were positive not that long ago. You know, you can kind of do a swoop under and come back up. Like, this doesn't scream like horribleness to me, right? And RSI was literally living in the 90s, right? 93 on this day, 92 on this day, right? So 64 is nothing, right? So there could have been a lot more that happened, and I think it's starting to make sense to me that, hey, let's hold this $4, let's see what earnings does, and let's decide if we're gonna break them all or come back down, right? I think the cool part, and again, this is cool for all the original Sound Hounds, right? Like everyone that came in before this. I really would say if bad earnings was to come, we would only come down to 3. And I say only because, again, we were living in that $2 or underworld, right? So even bad earnings would have a lot of the OG holders still living at what, 50% gains, or yeah, 50% gains, $1 on $2, right? So in terms of the longer holders, I'm sure there's still a smile there, right? You've built such a nice cushion that hey, on a worst case, you're still going to be up maybe 50%, right? For all those that kind of joined maybe after that $4 run or somewhere in between, right? We really need good earnings, because I think good earnings will bring us up to maybe that 720. I mean, at that point, we're just going to use this line, right? Yeah, I think 780 is the good number. $3 is the bad number, okay? And look, just like we saw with Palantir, okay? It's less about, and you know, I let me take a pause, because I saw some really good headlines on the Palantir earnings, all right? I'm going to start with a couple. I'm looking at an Investor Place article. I've never heard of them, but hey, it was a really easy summary of it. So they earned 8 cents a share, and that actually met expectations. Obviously, I want to beat earnings per share, EPS, but hey, at least we didn't lose that. So to me, it's actually a win. Hitting earnings per share is a little bit better than neutral. I actually wouldn't even call it neutral. I would say it's a little bit of a win. Their revenue was actually a beat. They did beat the revenue, and it seemed like they gave some decent guidance. And again, I think that's why we went from 23 something all the way up to 25 plus, right? So clearly things were liked. The thing I saw today, and again, if I missed something else, let me know, but the thing I saw today was basically some analysts giving some really silly prices. I think one I saw was like $12. I think one I saw was like $5. Like, I have no idea what those numbers are, but I've always said it. I don't care what analysts think, and that includes me. Like, you shouldn't put too much weight in what I think, right? End of the day, you are the only one that matters. You are the only one that's clicking buy and sell, right? So I don't know if it really was just some analyst thoughts that made this happen, but goodness gracious, right? So with SoundHound, as important as I think that the first candle is, kind of give it a little bit to see what the second one does too. But yeah, this is a very, very big shock to me on Palantir. I'd mentioned the SoFi one was a really big shock to me. And I think that's just something you need to keep in your back pocket with SoundHound, all right? Now, look, the fact that that went down 15% and this only went down 5%, I think that's kind of a win. Because look, I don't know what the number is. That's the only reason why I'm jumping up. On the Monday gap up on yesterday, Palantir actually only goes up 8, right? And we just talked about it. SoundHound went up almost 16, right? So the fact that this doubled the up and only a third of the down, in some ways that's a good little separation from it. And then, hey, maybe it's because this has an NVIDIA connection and not a Palantir connection. I don't know. I'm just kind of throwing something out there, right? But end of the day, it is earnings that's going to matter the most. Let me know if you watched or heard the last earnings. Let me know if you know what the guidance was coming up to this one. What are you expecting, right? Like, what do they need to say either happened or will happen for you to feel comfortable about the earnings, all right? So let me know your thoughts. Let me know your opinions, even if you disagree. Hey, I appreciate you so much.